Hi everyone, how you doing? And welcome to another Tinfoil Tuesday. Now, I'd normally be recording around that corner there, but I'm still on my week off, so I'm just going to do it here. Anyway, today's content creator that's covering is someone called M2M, formerly the Casual Spaceman, and he is one of the best moon landing denier debunkers you will find out there. And today for Tinfoil Tuesday, he's looking at Level Earth Observer and Level Earth Observer's take on the Chinese space station. Now, I have looked at that before, but nowhere near in the amount of depth that M2M is going to do. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Matt and my channel is M2M. My channel looks at space and space exploration and rocket launches, and also takes a historical look at things like the moon landings. And occasionally I do the odd debunk of conspiracy theorists and flat earthers, just like Salmine Dan. Now, Simon Dan has given me the privilege of doing an episode of Tinfoil Tuesday while Dan takes a well-earned break away for his anniversary. I asked him to take me with him, but for some reason Mrs. Simon Dan didn't seem to think it was a very good idea. I can't think why. So in this episode of Tinfoil Tuesday, I thought we'd have a look at an old favourite, Level Earth Observer. Oh yes. And he seems to have a bit of a problem with a hatch on the Quest airlock of the ISS. Let's have a look.
It's Friday night and I fancy a Chinese, so I'm going to entertain some Chinese space propaganda. Let's see what flavours the Chinese serve up for us.
Isn't that a little bit borderline racism? Carry on.
First up, a recent spacewalk.
Yep, so that's the Shenzhou 15 takenauts that are about to do an EVA on the Chinese space station Tiangong.
Ah, now this is great. We're only seconds in and we got the Chinese exposing NASA.
Exposing NASA? Are you sure, mate?
Please note the solid hatch here the Chinese are using to exit their space station and supposedly enter the vacuum of space. I'll put it back a bit.
Of course they're using a solid hatchway. I mean, why wouldn't they? I think you could probably see where this is going right now, can't you?
I say, just note the solid hatch. That solid hatch exposes one of the techniques these people use. And I'm going to use NASA's floppy pantomime as an example.
And there it is. If you haven't guessed what this is about already, you're just about to find out.
Bear with me. Now, as most will know who visit this channel, pretty much most of the spacewalks are filmed underwater.
Of course, Level Earth Observer never provides any evidence that can actually prove his claims, at least of nothing that can't be easily explained or debunked.
And when you have scenes of astronauts finishing their spacewalks and going back to the space station after a long so-called EVA, they have to shut the hatch. The hatch essentially has to be floppy because they're underwater. If it was solid, like we saw the Chinese just now, a different scene, a different technique, but if it was solid, then it would have too much resistance against the water.
What absolute gibberish. How do you think submarine hatches work?
And the astronaut would struggle to shut the door, the hatch, because of the resistance of the water, and of course give the game away, which is why they use floppy hatches for scenes where they enter and exit.
Except this isn't a hatch. I'll go into more about that in a minute.
Space stations during so-called spacewalks. But of course, when we look at clips like this, it makes it rather obvious anyway. We don't even need to entertain the Chinese technique. But the Chinese technique just exposes this even more.
You keep mentioning the Chinese technique. What exactly is this Chinese technique?
Look. I mean, it looks like there's rust on the outside of this floppy thing. Now, if our mate was in the vacuum of space, there would be no resistance here. He'd just pull it down and it'd be done and dusted. Because he's in water, even his soft hatch
Again, not a hatch, and NASA's never claimed it to be a hatch.
is meeting resistance against the water, naturally. And that's why we got that silly pantomime.
The pantomime is actually in Level Earth Observer's head, because as always, he doesn't know what he's looking at or what he's talking about. The so-called hatch we're looking at has never been claimed to be a hatch by NASA, because it isn't a hatch. What we're looking at is a thermal cover. It's made from multiple layers of thermal materials like mylar and others, very similar to the outer layers of the astronaut spacesuits. What it does is provides a thermal equilibrium in respect to the hatchway and the hatch, so when the actual solid hatch is closed, it has no issues making a proper seal or any issues while opening the hatch inwards. Here's the solid hatch shown here and here inside the Quest airlock, because it opens inwards just like the Chinese space station that Leo very conveniently showed us earlier. Thank you, Leo. In fact, the Quest airlock is actually two airlocks in one. One is called the crew lock and the other is the equipment lock. So that creates a middle section between the section open to space and the section that is the ISS at full pressure. This allows the ISS crew to use pumps and bleed valves to ensure that the middle section matches the pressure whichever direction the crew member needs to go. As for the so-called rust marks, as Level Earth Observer thinks, there isn't a great deal of information on this, but through my own research, it's speculated to be oxidation, for lack of a better term, of one or more or a combination of materials rubbing off of the spacesuit gloves onto the cover material, and perhaps traces of atomized gas in the hatch during the coming and going of pressurization. A combination of the two could be oxidizing, including the material of the hatch cover itself. As you can see, it's around the edges on one side of the thermal cover where most of the handling occurs. Now, this seems to be the most logical explanation to me, but I'm always willing to learn, open to new ideas, so if you have more knowledge than me, I'd love to see it in the comments. But as for the rust, what makes Leo think that this flexible material would rust, even if it was in water, is beyond me. Let's see what else he's got to say.
And now we're back with this scene. Like I say, China can get away with a solid hatch with this scene because they're not underwater. But what's going to follow is a couple of clips, some underwater scenes, and a couple of stage shots. And one of the stage shots is pure mockery, I'll tell you. But you've got to love the fact that Chinese solid prop hatch has just served up NASA.
No.
Again, not difficult, admittedly. But let's continue. Underwater.
Evidence.
Stage.
Evidence.
Underwater.
Evidence.
And then we get this stage shot, which is just pure mockery. Especially when I put a straight line up against that horizon. And then when I put a red line up against that horizon, the mockery's there for all to see.
Not really, Leo. As Level Earth Observer fails to realise is that fisheye lenses can make flat lines appear curved as well as curved appear flat. As it says in this image here, if Earth's curvature is seen in the photo, flat earthers are quick to attribute it to the usage of fisheye lens. But the opposite happens quite often. They look over footages taken by fisheye lenses from a high altitude and cherry picks frames where the curved horizon appears straight. Well, I think that's enough from me, and it's certainly enough from a Level Earth Observer. Look, I have never missed a single episode of Tinfoil Tuesday since Dan started it on his channel, and neither should you. So if you haven't done so already, please click on the subscribe button below this video. click on the bell icon, select all, and you'll be notified when Dan uploads another video to Tinfoil Tuesday or any other video. And you could always do the same to me as well. Just head on to M2M. That's the letter M, number 2, and M. Head on over there and subscribe if you're interested in the kind of thing that I do. So that only leaves me to say thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.